friends, let us start a new topic, biodiversity. Now, this is very important for your examination, and as I said earlier, focus on basics, right? Now, your questions will be on basics only, right? Now, coming to our topic, the term biodiversity was first coined by Evo Wilson. Evo Wilson. And now this term biodiversity was popularized during Earth Summit held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 1992. And coming to our basic definition, what exactly biodiversity means? Now, it is defined as variability among living organisms from all sources, including terrestrial ecosystems, aquatic ecosystems, and the ecological complexes of which they are part. Now, this is the basic definition. Now, I will write the crux point here, right? Now, what exactly biodiversity means? It is variability among living organisms. Variability among living organisms. Now, this is the basic crux point, right? With this, we will move on to the due course, right? Now, what is this variability among living organisms? Right? Now, next, we will discuss about the levels of biodiversity. Right? Now, how you classify this levels of biodiversity, on which points? Now, these are the points that you have to consider for the classification of levels of biodiversity. Now, what are those points? Now, you have to consider the variability within species. Variability within species. And the second point what you have to consider is variability between species. Variability between species. And the third point what you have to consider is variability between ecosystems. Now, these are the 3 points that you have to consider for the classification of biodiversity. Now, by considering these 3 points, now what are the levels of biodiversity? The first level is species biodiversity. Species biodiversity or species diversity. And the next one is genetic diversity. And the third one is ecosystem diversity. Now, how do we explain this species, genetic and ecosystem diversity? The term itself are self-explanatory. Species diversity refers to the variety of species within a region. Now, see here, Siberian birds are observed in poles. Polar bears are also observed in poles. They are specific to that region. Am I right or wrong? Camels are observed in deserts. Likewise that. Yes. Now the next one is genetic diversity. Now what it refers to? It refers to the genetic variability within the species. Right? Now see here, each individual possesses genes which are unique to them. Am I right or wrong? Now these are unique features which shows you the difference between the other organisms. Now this is genetic diversity. Now ecosystem is nothing but it refers to the variety of ecosystems in a given place, right? Deserts, tropical regions, cold climates, different types of ecosystems, right? Now, apart from this orthodox classification, there is one more classification of biodiversity, and this once it was asked in UPSC examination in 2011. Now, what is that classification? Now, the levels of biodiversity, the other classification is alpha, beta, gamma diversity. Alpha, beta, gamma diversity. Now, what exactly alpha diversity means? Right? It refers to a group of organisms interacting and competing for the same resources or sharing same environment, right? Now, interacting and competing for same resources. I will write the crux point here, right? Same resources. Same resources or for the same environment, right? Now, what is beta diversity? It refers to the expression of diversity between habitats. Now, it shows you the variability between habitats. Variability between habitats. I'll write the crux point, right? Between habitats. Now, what is gamma diversity? Observe this, there will be a slight difference between beta and gamma diversity. Now, gamma diversity refers to diversity of habitats within a region, right? Diversity of habitats within a region. Now, this is the difference. Diversity of habitats within a region. Right? Now, in 2011, a question was asked regarding alpha diversity, right? Now, focus on the basics. Done. Now, already, now see here, the basic definition itself says that it is variability among living organisms. Now, what are those living organisms, right? Now, already we have discussed in extensively, right? Flora and fauna, plants and animals, right? So, I'll write the basic here. Faunal biodiversity, floral biodiversity. Now, animals and plants are abundant or living organisms that you can observe on earth. Now, how do you classify them? Now, how do we classify them? So, biologists made a classification based on their similarities and differences, right? Now, based on this, the highest primary division is kingdom. If it is animal, it is animal kingdom. If it is plant, it is plant kingdom. So, I will write the hierarchical order once it was asked in the examination, right? Now, see here, the highest primary division classification of this plant and animal or fauna or flora or kingdom. Right? Plant and animal kingdom. Now, each kingdom is divided into smaller units called phylum. Plural is phyla. Right? Now, each phylum is further divided into classes. Right? Classes. Now, if you take animal kingdom, what are the classes? Mammals, reptiles, amphibians. These are the things. Right? Now, each class is further divided into order. Right? Now, each order is further divided into families. Right? Now, each family is further divided into genera. Right? Now, singular is genus. Now, each genus contains species. Now, species is the fundamental and contains single types of animals. Now, this is the fundamental unit and contains single kind of animal. Right? Now, this is the highest primary division. Now, these are the classifications of an animal and plant biodiversity. Now see here, we have extensively seen about biotic factors, right? Likewise your plants, animals and organisms. Now I don't want to repeat again about the characteristics of animals and plants again. You know that plants, they can produce food by photosynthesis, and chlorophyll is the active component that helps in photosynthesis. And also animals, you see about vertebrates and invertebrates, right? Again repetitive, we have seen extensively in ecology. You can go to that and come to here, right? Now next we will go to the next concept now, which is very important. The next concept what we deal is biodiversity hotspots. Now I'll write down the things. Biodiversity hotspots. Now what exactly biodiversity hotspots mean? Right. Now what is the significance and what are the characteristics of this? Now biodiversity hotspots are the areas which support natural ecosystems that are largely intact and where native species and communities are associated with this ecosystems, right? Native species and communities are associated, right? Now I'll write down the crux point, right? Now these areas contain locally endemic species. These areas contain locally endemic species. Locally. Now what is endemic? Endemic is nothing but regularly found. Endemic is nothing but regularly found, right? Now what are the characteristics that you can decide that an ecosystem or area is a biodiversity hotspot? There are some criterias and that it has to meet for an area to be a biodiversity hotspot. Now what are the characteristics or criteria to be a biodiversity hotspot? Now this is very important. Now an ecosystem must contain at least 1500 species of vascular plants as endemic. Now an ecosystem must contain at least 1500 endemic species regularly found. Endemic species as vascular plants. As vascular plants. Now vascular plants means which contains xylem and phloem. Right. Vascular plants means which contains xylem and phloem. Now these are the things which are need for transportation of food and water, right? Or you can say at least 0.5% of the species must be endemic and vascular plants. Now this is the first criteria. Now what is the second criteria? The second criteria is, now this ecosystem has to lose at least 70% of primary vegetation. At least 70% of its primary vegetation. Now I'll write the crux points here, right? 70% of its primary vegetation. Now these are the two criteria that you have to decide an area to be a biodiversity hotspot, right? Now this term biodiversity hotspot was given by Norman Mailer. At around the world there are 36 biodiversity hotspots. 36 biodiversity hotspots, and out of these 36 biodiversity hotspots, 4 are in India. 4 are in India. Now, we will discuss about these 4 biodiversity hotspots in detail, right? And the first biodiversity hotspot that you found in India is, first one is Western Ghats. Western Ghats. Now, Western Ghats are also known as Sahyadri Hills. Sahyadri Hills. Right? Now, Western Ghats, now these are mountain ranges that runs on the west coast, right? Now, this Western Ghats is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. UNESCO World Heritage Site, right? And see here, this Western Ghats is also called Great Escarpment of India. Now, this Western Ghats are also called Great Escarpment of India. Now, this is a question that was asked in 2013 UPSC. Right? Great Escarpment of India. Done. Now, let us discuss this Western Ghats in detail, because it is the most sensitive zone where the biodiversity is depleting. Right? Now, due to this depletion of biodiversity in Western Ghats, government have set up an ecology panel, expert panel, which is headed by Madhav Gadgil and Kasturi Rangan. Right? Madhav Gadgil and Kasturi Rangan. Right. Now, they have given a report about this Western Ghats, and they have dissected this Western Ghats into 3 zones, 3 eco-sensitive zones, right? Or you can call it as ecological sensitive zones. Ecological sensitive zones. Now, I will write it as ESZ. Right? Now, what they have decided, they have dissected this Western Ghats into 3 ecological sensitive zones. Now, in that, the first part, ESZ1, must contain 60% of the Western Ghat area, and in this 60% of area there must be national parks, sanctuaries, right, reserves, biosphere reserves, etc. And the second one, the second eco-sensitive zone, ESZ2, which comprises of 15% of the total Western Ghat area. Now, in this, only existing mines must function. Only, I'll write down the point, only existing mines must function. Right? No new mine must be allocated in this ESZ2. Now, the third zone, which is ESZ3, which comprises of 25% of the area. Right. Now, in this 25% area, you can conduct developmental activities, and new mining operations can also be done. New mining operations can also be done in this zone. Now, this is the report that was given to the government. Right? Now, again, as Madhav Gadgil report was too ecologically and too environmental friendly, then again one more report was given by Kasturi Rangan, and they have changed this eco-sensitive zones percentages a light twisted, but the basic things are this same, right? Now see here, this is the question asked in 2015. That's what I am discussing this. According to Madhav Gadgil and Kasturi Rangan report, which area of eco-sensitive zone will be allocated to new mining is the question asked. Now see here, your answer must be this. ESZ3 must be your answer, right? Done? Yes. Okay, so let us go into the next one. The next biodiversity hotspot in India is Eastern Himalayas. Eastern Himalayas. Right. And the third one is Indo-Burma region. Indo-Burma region. And the fourth one is Sundaland. Now these are the remaining three biodiversity hotspots in India. Now see here, Eastern Himalayas, where you can find this in, already the term itself says Eastern Himalayan region, your Nepal, northeastern India and Bhutan. Now see here, many species, endangered species are there in this biodiversity hotspot. That's why it was allocated as biodiversity hotspot, right? Your rhinoceros, one-horned rhinoceros, right? Rhinoceros unicornis, I'll write down this. Rhinoceros unicornis, one-horned rhinoceros, can be observed in this region. Kaziranga National Park, right? Your wild Asian water buffalo, golden langur, snow leopard, right? Gangetic dolphin, right? Now see here, these are the endangered species that you can observe in this region. Now see here, the only endemic genus what you can observe in Eastern Himalayas is Namadafa flying squirrel. Now this is very important, right? The only endemic species, right, means regularly found. Namadafa flying squirrel. Now you can observe this Namadafa flying squirrel only in Eastern Himalayas. This is the point, right? Now there is only one species available in Namadafa National Park in Arunachal Pradesh. Done. And the next one is Indo-Burma region. Now the term itself says it spreads out from eastern Bangladesh to northeastern India, right? Now see here, several types of monkeys can be observed in this Indo-Burma region. And Sundaland, this is also your southeast part which extends from India to Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore. Now see here, your Nicobar region comes under this Sundaland. Your Nicobar region will comes under Sundaland. Now this is the important point. Done? Yes. Now let us discuss about the next concept called biodiversity regions. Biodiversity regions. Now we are concerned only with India. We will look about India only. Now see here, we will write some statistical data that might be helpful for your examination, right? Now as you know, India is most mega diverse country with 2.4% of land area. 2.4% of land area, and accounting to 6 to 7% of total species that can be observed in India. 6 to 7% species that you can observe in India. Right now, see here, and again, 8 natural World Heritage sites are there in India. Right, 8 natural World Heritage sites. World Heritage sites, and 10 biosphere reserves, which are included in UNESCO Man and Biosphere program. 10 biosphere reserves that are included in UNESCO Man and Biosphere program. Right, now here we will discuss in detail regarding this. And also 26 Ramsar wet island sites, wetland sites, Ramsar wetland sites. Right, already we have discussed this Ramsar wetland sites in ecology topic. Right, and this biosphere reserves are all also in ecology topic. Right, some data, right, once it might be asked in your examination. Right, now see here, in eastern Himalayan region you can observe this tigers, right, and also things. See here, we will discuss this topic in the next coming videos, as we have Project Elephant, Project Tiger, Project Ganges Dolphin. So that's why I given only the basic details here. Right, now we have discussed this biosphere, 10 biosphere reserves in ecology part. Now let us see this 8 World Heritage sites. Right, let us know the names at least, right, because that will be helpful for your examination. What are these 8 World Heritage sites? Now UNESCO, what is the full form of UNESCO? We are speaking about UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, and Cultural Organization. So UNESCO. Right, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. Now 8 World Heritage sites are included in India. Now what are those? The first one is Kaziranga National Park. Kaziranga National Park. So I am writing this. I'll write National Park as NP. Okay, Kaziranga National Park. And the next one is Manas Wildlife Sanctuary. The third one is Great Himalayan National Park. Great Himalayan National Park. The fourth one is Nanda Devi. Nanda Devi and Valley of Flowers. And Valley of Flowers National Park. Now next one is Sundarbans National Park. Sundarbans National Park. The next one is Western Ghats. Already we have discussed this. What is the other name for Western Ghats? Sahyadri Hills, and sometimes it is also called Great Escarpment of India. Now the next one is Keoladeo National Park. Keoladeo National Park. The last one is Kanchenjunga National Park. Right here. Kanchenjunga. Kanchenjunga National Park. Now, these are the 8 World Heritage Sites that was in India. Right? Thank you.